What is going on, you guys? It's your boy. My thighs are my demise here, and we are back with episode 101. Feels weird to say that. Number over 100 kind of indicates that I've done a certainly delusional amount of these videos at this point, especially given the complete lack of viewership. But yeah, my thighs are my demise, kind of. I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword with somebody that is a little neurotic about not skipping leg day. Is that especially if you like train your groin or anything, and your quads and hamstrings, you can get pretty big legs, which generally doesn't. It's not very comfortable for a male with genitalia. But that's probably as much as I'll say about that. Either way, it is. I guess I'd rather have strong legs and just live with big thighs. But I think a lot of clothes now, especially, it's an absolute nightmare trying to get things that are not for people who are, have a 42-inch waist but have big legs. Like they assume, like if you just measured my thighs, you'd assume that I was at least 500 pounds. But then I'm not even close to that. So anyway, that's enough I'll say about about my thighs. I've been kind of low on energy. It seems like seems like it happens a lot just with me. Maybe everyone is just low on energy all the time and everyone's just kind of doing a better job of sucking it up. But that's not like what I'm meant to complain about per se, but I thought of a funny way to get me motivated. And I guess it's something I hope I don't have to do too much more often, but I had a day that I just call a thunderstruck kind of day. Basically that I didn't want to go lift, and so I turned on Thunderstruck by AC/DC and then kind of used that to get the ball rolling a little bit. I have a lot of other cues and I guess just other little weird quirks that try and get me to do things when I don't want to do them, and I'm generally pretty good at weaponizing those to my advantage, I suppose, especially when it comes to like working out or the like. But I guess I needed the AC/DC push today to really get me over the edge. So I just told my friend it was a thunderstruck kind of day. So it's kind of day I had. Yeah, but also it seemed like it's something that bothers me is that I feel like I have a lot more thoughts than I have ability to completely flush them out. Like I had a lot of incomplete thoughts. Not in the sense they're not incomplete. I suppose like the haikus themselves, for example, for what I generate for these videos. I'm sure like I could take the haiku just as its face value, and it would have like you kind of get the point of what I'm saying. But I think a lot of it requires a lot more nuance and flushing out, and a lot more effort put towards really kind of flushing out an idea versus just like having it and writing it down, that being that, because there's always a lot more to analyze with certain things. And I don't know if it's just the nature of how I think or what I'm doing to generate these ideas. I have no shortage of ideas themselves. It's just it takes I often lack the energy or the motivation or the willpower to finish flushing out ideas completely. So I have tons of these like half-baked ideas or half-baked things. And even sometimes I'll start writing, like especially with my blogs, like I have a like for actual like writing blogs. These are kind of the more video blog forms, but the written blogs, I have like a text document probably like 700 lines, and it's every other line, so I'd say it's probably only about 350 lines of like stuff. But so many of them are just incomplete ideas that I know that there's a lot more for me to flush out, but I just don't have sometimes I'm not in the right headspace to even think about a certain problem. And so I don't know. Some of it's just a matter of like I can't control. Like if I was a robot, I could program myself to be able to do all this, but I can't. I just have to kind of live with the spontaneity and the nuances of being human, I suppose. So you take the good with the bad a little bit. I guess that being said, some things I am interested to kind of think about and flesh out today. I guess for better or for worse. I was thinking about I don't know. I think there's a notable difference between like truth and wisdom, because often I think what's wise isn't like it. I think in maybe in the olden times, maybe when it's I guess in the pre-internet age and the pre-age where information was so readily available, generally any kind of truth would make you more wise. Like if you understood Like, for example, since the body was so poorly understood, that really any more information that was accurate, that was true, would it be helpful for people? So if they were like, oh, maybe like don't eat this because it will kill you, would be like, okay, I didn't know that. That's actually helpful. It's a good, wise thing to know. But I wonder, and I think I would argue that now there's almost more wisdom in ignorance, or at least there is some non-zero amount of wisdom in just not knowing or not, because there just can't. It's not physically. I guess like physically is probably the wrong word to use there, but it's not even remotely or feasibly or principally possible for someone to have no absolute truth or know like about everything all the time. And especially with I'd say the glut of information we have, and even just truths that we have, most of it doesn't make you any wiser. It's just not really that helpful. I think wisdom, kind of similar to good philosophy, should like strengthen you in some way, whether that be strengthen your tenacity or your, I guess in the very surface level, just keep you alive longer. If you don't do dumb shit, you're not going to die. So that would be where in the old times it would have played a bigger role. Whereas now it's like you're almost just better off just not even knowing, because it doesn't really make you any stronger. It's like, I'm trying to think of a stupid example. I guess the dumb example would be like, I don't know, if I'm talking to my buddy Bob Jones or something like that. And some, I guess, omnipotent being is going to give me a truth. And it's like, Bob Jones just got his dick sucked under a bridge an hour ago. And I'd be like, well, I have questions, obviously, but I guess I can't really doubt that that's true because this is an omnipotent being telling me this. But why did I don't give a fuck. Did I need to know that at all? Like, no. And you could accuse that of just being just completely innocuous, even if it is truth, it's not wisdom. It's certainly not, there's no wisdom associated with that truthhood. But even in general, I even think things that are like even scientifically true. It's like, well, the human body can go, 5 days without eating or something like that. And it's like, okay, maybe that is again true, but is it wise for me to even have that and like to keep that or hold that in my brain or to let that have domain over me? And I think there is a certain amount, and even kind of a good amount of just ignorance that is actually makes you more wise. You just don't even know. Whereas I think we're programmed. I think even as not even programmed. I kind of use that word loosely here, but we're influenced to really, really seek out and to want to have truths. And it's even if it's truths that we don't like to hear, it's like we're more wise knowing truths. But I don't necessarily think that's true, especially as information and even truths, even what might be even practical truths, would be helpful. So I mean, another example that might be more practical, and even not even practical. I just think another example that might be more relatable, perhaps. Not that I give a fuck about this, but I'm going to use the example anyway. A truthhood might be, and again, this is kind of a modern day kind of a I don't know, stupid truthhood. It's like, well, you can actually save money in the long term by using a credit card and stacking the rewards points and and always paying it off. And like, and this is like, yes, this is obviously, I don't disagree with the truthhood. The fact that, yes, of course, if you are like aware and cognizant of what you're spending and your bill time and like getting the rewards and cash back and all this other crap, if you kept track of it all, you would indeed save money in the long term. I don't argue with that at all. I completely agree that that's true. And the credit card companies make money off people being dumb and not paying it off or being just morons. And you can essentially take their money by being smart and like by not falling to it. But then ultimately, I don't know that that's necessarily, while it is a truthhood, and I guess it's wise if you really care about that kind of stuff. Someone like me is like, I prefer to spend money I have and don't spend money I don't have, because I value not even thinking about it. So it's like I value just the ignorance I have and knowing that like my card won't work if I don't have the money to pay for it. Not that I've ever been at a point where I'm like, on the wit's end of not being able to pay for stuff. And I know that, sure, maybe I could save $20 or, over the course of a month or something like that. Even if, sure, maybe it's even like $50 a month. I wouldn't put that, I don't put that high of a premium. I put a higher premium on me, just not, I don't have to know. I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't want to have to like juggle more of this stuff. There's already enough stuff between like, there's already too much stuff really for people to juggle. I mean, people can't even manage email. Like their emails are a mess. And I have a hard enough time getting all my shit together, at least to the standards that I like to keep things. So this includes like, I guess, my physical body, which people also ignore, my digital, like, kind of like working programs and where my files are. My files are organized. Again, for the most part, there's folders and stuff that I'm sure I could revisit and are still a mess. But again, in large part, they are organized. My emails are at inbox zero. There's a lot of things that require a lot of my hygiene and maintenance in order to meet my standard. Again, although it is arbitrary. But unfortunately, like, just counting these points and like keeping track of all this stuff and like getting new flight rewards, and it's like I don't have to. It's kind of almost incentivizes me spending money on stuff where it's like, oh, you can get $30 back if you spend $300. Like, I don't. Then you're kind of now I have to invent something to spend $300 on, which I realize most people have stuff that they're going to spend money on anyway. But again, I do think it is mildly influential in some ways where like you kind of get in this habit of like, oh, I have to spend this much money. And then maybe that expense goes away, but you still like the rewards and you're used to getting the rewards. So now you're like kind of suckered into buying $300 worth of crap that you don't even need. Which again, as a larger, again, goes back to my whole beef with a lot of like the advertising is no one needs any of this. You don't need any of it. It's like people are buying like onion slicers. And it's like, why did you never, I'm not sure, like you either need something bad enough to where you don't care how much it is. But I think if you buy anything on sale, yeah, I guess here's my boiled down thesis, I suppose, if I'm going to be more articulate with this. If you buy anything that you bought because it was on sale, you don't need it. Meaning that like if you really need something, you don't care how much you're going to spend on it. And generally that's the case when I buy something that I really need. I don't give a fuck how much it is. Often I want to buy something that's going to last for, a ridiculous, like for a much longer lifetime than people will have their, standards for now. But I don't care how much it is. I don't care if I'll overpay in some sense for the quality because I want that. Versus like I don't really like deal shopping. I think it's stupid because like, oh, I got this onion slicer for 50% off. And it's like, how did you ever, why do you need an onion slicer? Well, I slice onions. It's like, really? I don't, even if it was like, let's say you got a job as a professional onion slicer, wouldn't you want like a higher quality one? Or wouldn't you want to address that problem when it would come around? Like, I don't think it's worth you trying to preemptively solve problems you don't even have yet. It's like one thing if you are a professional onion slicer and then you like need a good onion slicer. So you buy this, and then maybe sure it happened to be on sale, but you wouldn't really care. You need the onion slicer now because you're a professional. This is important for your work, is to have an onion slicer that's, top quality or something like that. So you wouldn't even care what you paid on it. But like now you've been convinced and duped that you like are in desperate need of this onion slicer that you clearly didn't need. At least you didn't need at that point, and you may not even need ever, but you just thought it was like a good deal and it's going to go. It's like, I don't know, the whole thing seems very manipulative, and it's telling people stuff that they don't need, which is, again, I'm not going to go back to my whole rants on advertising, but in general, it's I don't know. Finances are a part where my philosophy gets weird on stuff because I don't know, I can seem the pragmatic often seems silly at sometimes. Like I like to spend money in cash. There's some stuff I will spend a lot of money on, other stuff I won't. Like I don't really give myself like a budget on food because I don't care. I'm not eating ramen. I'd rather just like starve than to have like terrible macros and kind of succumb to something. I don't care. Like I don't know. I'd rather sleep on the ground and not have a mattress than to eat complete shit. And that's just, I don't know, part of my value system, I suppose. And I don't know, people are free to disagree with that and do their own thing. But I don't know. My philosophy on money gets weird most of the time. But anyway, I'll move on to something else here. Let's see. Yeah. So I guess one frustration that I have, I guess speaking of numbers, because I was just kind of talking about money. Money's all a numbers game, and I've written about how money is fair, but not necessarily like good or equal. Whereas like fairness and equality often aren't the same thing. Where it might be, it's not fair necessarily to cut your neighbor's grass for free. It's probably good to do that because it's not fair at all. You should be paying you, but that's not the point. It's just to do something nice. But I think a lot of things, again, not that they are numbers games, but they could be treated as numbers games. But I guess really my issue is that the point isn't to try to treat everything like And I'll say, I guess the point of the game itself isn't to treat things as a numbers game. So the example I think is frustrates me the most is like when they talk about, I don't know, like dating, and they use the secretary problem, which if you're not familiar, the secretary problem is like, suppose, I guess it's named the secretary problem because it's like, how many secretaries should you interview before you just pick one? Because ultimately there's not that big of a difference. And like, if you're left searching for the best secretary, you might waste your whole life, whatever. So I think the argument would be like, what's your N? Meaning like, what's the number of total like secretaries that you could get? So let's say you want to date or you want to hire over the course of 2 years and you can realistically hire 50 candidates. I think the algorithm, whatever, would tell you to interview like N divided by 3 or something like that, and then choose the best candidate after that. Meaning like the best candidate you're aware of up to that point. So you may have missed out on the best one still, but I think it like maximizes your odds or whatever. But basically it's like a mathematical formula. You're trying to basically pick the best of a allotment without being able to like interview all of them, without having full knowledge of the system. Like what's your best move given like time constraints or constraints on, I guess, the acquisition of knowledge over a period of time. If people apply the same secretary problem to like dating. So for example, they'd say, well, I want to get married by I'm 35, which by the way, like, I guess choosing arbitrary dates and ranges where you want like life events to happen, I think is silly. It's like, I would like to die at 90. It's like, you don't have control whether or not you die at 90. That's so stupid to think that you have like domain of whether or not you're going to die at 90. It's like, not that I hope that guy dies earlier, but it just seems stupid to proclaim something like that. And like, well, I want to retire at 60 then. Okay, I have 30 years of retirement. And it's like, dude, you might not, your brain might not even work. I don't know why you're trying to count the days already. What a stupid thing to trouble yourself with. And I say stupid, not as in like, it's trivial, because I mean, there is some non-triviality to how long you're going to live, but ultimately to me, it's a silly thing to concern yourself with, only because it's like, I don't know, it's like trying to like, well, I'll assume how many days in my life it's going to rain. It's like, you don't get to pick when it rains or when it doesn't rain. You have to just, it'll rain, and when it rains, you have to deal with it. You don't get to choose when you're going to die or when you're going to get cancer, or when you're going to get, it's like, I don't know, like, so even with when I want to get married, it's like, sure, you can like prefer to not wait till you're 60 to get married, but like, what if literally every person, I don't know, what if it's someone that follows you around and kills your wife right before you marry him? Like, I don't know, you don't really know. Like, that's not going to happen, I hope, to people, but it's not like, it just seems silly to think that you can like control all of it. Anyway, even if suppose this person wanted to get married before 35 and said, well, I want to date them for at least 2 years or something like that. So I want to go on dates, on 3 times a month or something like that. So they end up like having this formula down. They're like, okay, well, I need to go on 58 dates to start. And then the next best person I find after 58 dates will be the person. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I realize that people like to treat stuff as numbers games, but if you treat it like a numbers game, you're a loser. And because you're like, I don't know, you're a loser. You're kind of rejecting your humanity. And I don't mean you're a loser as like, you might not win the numbers game. Sure. But you're gay. I want to use a derogatory term basically towards you. I don't know, because you could pick whatever one you wanted, pick your favorite, but, you're a douchebag, whatever. You're a sucker. I don't know. But I think treating everything as a numbers game, even if it can be loosely abstracted as a numbers game, is a stupid way to go about living. It's not one that I would endorse or even think is, it's just not, I think it's just the wrong way to do it. So I don't know. I think you're a cocksucker if you treat everything as a numbers game, because it's not, even if you could be abstracted as a numbers game. There's another thing I was thinking about humans in general, which is interesting. It's like, I realize that human behavior is not that complicated, and it's very predictable in some sense, meaning that like, there's not that many things that humans are going to do on any given day. So for example, like today, again, if you had any knowledge of me whatsoever, you probably know that I'm going to get some kind of exercise. I have to eat. Obviously, I was sleeping at some time, and again, that time is probably at night. I'll probably be on my computer at some point during the day. So like, there's a lot of like pretty safe bets you can make about my behaviors, that make it like, that might tempt people to think that humans are like very simple creatures. Cause they appear very simple, like based on what you look at. Again, if you just kind of observe a human, it's like, oh, well, it's kind of doing the same thing. Think about like, if you looked at like an Amazon tribe somewhere and it was like, oh, they kind of do the same thing every day. Like, see these guys go out and hunt and find food, and they come back and they like, they make little crafts and they burn it, and there's this big seance or whatever. I don't know. Like, it's not very complicated what they're doing. It's not like it's the behaviors themselves can be easily like categorized and thought of. But I think we juxtapose that with like the sheer complexity of what's going on inside the human brain. It's interesting. I think it's what creates a lot of conflict within humans is our behavior seems, and not even seen, they are very predictable. And I think a lot of programmers see that because they work with predicting human behavior, and they do a pretty damn good job at figuring out what human's going to buy what, and what they're going to do here and what they're going to go there, and they're tracking and getting all this information to try and track and categorize behaviors. But ultimately, like at the end of the day, humans are still like infinitely more complex than we might map behaviors for. And I realize that the behaviors don't look that complex, but like think about even just like the complexity of why a certain sentence forms. I guess you could make the argument that it's just like this simple neural network or weighted neural network, and maybe even it's a very complicated or a broken one in some ways. But even the complexity between different humans, like you're not the same way you'd copy a computer program, you fundamentally cannot copy a human. Even two humans that maybe are identical twins still have vastly different brains and are going to form vastly different sentences or make different faces. And like the amount of differences in complexity kind of just grows at this astronomical rate that I think doesn't really mediate very well with, again, our very relatively predictable and simple behavior, despite all what's going on in our head. And the same with I guess society in general, because it has grown in complexity so much. So you have like simple behaviors with humans, a giant complicated society, but then also like a giant complicated mind. I think it leads to a lot of, I don't know, inner conflicts or tension or difficulty, and just perhaps in trying to mediate. Like, understandably, we are simple. I know it seems like we're simple, and we kind of do simple things. We eat every day, we sleep every day, we talk every day, we walk every day. Like we do a lot of the same shit. It's not very complicated what we're doing, but we know just from our subjective experience and I guess consciousness that there's a hell of a lot more going on than just like, it's not running like a program. I'm thinking about all kinds of stuff while I'm eating, which again, if you're just observing me, you just see somebody eating and you're like, oh, he's, but my mind is not empty. Obviously there's plenty of things I'm thinking about. And most of the time it's not to do about the food. It's not even like I'm thinking about the weight or the exercise or the food I'm eating or the car I'm driving. Like even the driving a car, you'd think it's like, that's like almost a automatic activity. I'm not even thinking about driving the car. It's kind of automatic, but my mind is in somewhere completely else. But again, the behavior, if you categorize the behavior, it's like this person's just in a car. So again, the simple behavior is juxtaposed with like, what the fuck is going on in this guy's brain? It has nothing to do with it. It's random almost. And it's like, sure, you can like, I guess, program the random behavior into a computer somehow, but it would ultimately never be duplicable or never be the same as what, they would do again. Because again, I've driven to the gym, the same route to the gym every time. It's gone like probably the same speed or similar speeds, or again, stuff that you'd all be able to like, that seems very predictable and easy and like, again, simple in nature or in theory. But ultimately, like, I don't think you'll ever be able to, I certainly never think the same things going to the gym at the same time, right? I might have the same category or themes of thoughts. And I suppose you could say that watching these videos, there's certain themes of thoughts that come up a lot, but I wouldn't argue that I've had an identical thought ever. Like I wouldn't know that like we'd even be able to call things like two different thoughts identical. I don't think that's even possible to say like on any kind of, I don't know, tangible level. I think that's too difficult of something to claim that I've thought something identical even throughout the course of my life. So then I don't know. It's just it's interesting to me to think of this. I don't know. It could be the cause of a lot of anguish within people, is that they're struck by this weird difference between, again, the simple nature and I don't know how things seem very simple, but again the complexity is so far beyond. So I guess it strikes me in the same way that we might look at like an ant colony and just say, oh, well, we look at their behaviors. That's very simple. We know if we do this, they're going to respond very, very predictably. And ultimately, I think you could say our same argument about humans. Like, okay, well, if we lower prices, we're going to get more, whatever. And you get, again, that's kind of like the market, the economist view of it. But certainly there's other views that are equally valid about, controlling human behavior. But I don't think anyone would argue that it's just like, I guess the AI maximalist might, but it's like that we're just like, there's nothing going on in our brains. And so what is there to say that there's nothing there's just certainly nothing else going on in an ant's like brain or an ant's neural network or an ant's even just like collective consciousness. We don't know, is the ant hill the conscious thing that is, maybe its mind is rambling while everyone's doing what they're doing. We don't really know, because again, all we can really observe is like just the behavior of the ants. And so in the same way, if you just observe the behavior of the humans, like in the Amazon tribe, they would just seem stupid. But if you learn their language, I'm sure they have some kind of rich culture, and I'm sure people are thinking about all kinds of stuff. And again, maybe you just chalk it up as just random nonsense. But there's certainly a lot more that meets the eye than just like, we're not just our actions, really. There's a lot more that goes on beyond that. So I don't know. I don't mean to make a case again against strong AI, but in some ways that's kind of, I guess, what this rant manifested itself as. But either way, we don't really know, because again, from the outside looking in, it just looks like I do the same shit every day, but I don't think the same things. But anyway, I suppose thinking about categories, or I guess categorizing human behavior, I was thinking more about not again what humans do, but what humans perhaps should do. This was after my thinking about truth versus wisdom, when I guess seeking truth for truth's sake sometimes isn't wise. Sometimes it's ignorance is more wise than I guess truth. So there's some almost kind of a wise ignorance to have, I suppose. But I was thinking about like what humans should be doing. I kind of thought of four different like modes in which we should achieve balance with, in terms of what we do and focus on and think about and all that. So the first is, I guess, pursuit of, and I all of these are prefaced with like pursuit of blank, meaning that it's some kind of not even like attainment really, because it's not, that won't make sense for one of them specifically, but it's some kind of pursuit or some kind of like means or some kind of working towards, or some kind of, it's basically what you're doing at this point, right? Like what is the kind of the purpose, or what's the philosophical why behind what is going on right now. So the first is pursuit of, so some of these are pretty simple. The first is like pursuit of the body, which, so this would just be like eating, kind of taking care of your body, whether that be not eating too much or eating enough. I suppose historically it's been eating enough, has been that kind of bodily pursuit. But now it's probably the opposite, and eating too much. Either way, pursuit of the body and everything that's encompasses should be one of like man's pursuits. The second is pursuit of the mind. This is, again, some kind of thinking, some kind of something like that. And again, thinking is hard to define itself anyway. But this is some kind of, I'll just say intellectual pursuit. And you can kind of, I guess, be that as it may. The third is pursuit like of fellow man. And what I mean by that is like, obviously even pursuing your mind and your body, there's still some intrinsic social aspect to humanity. So you need like your body and your mind, but you also need for fellow men. So this is doing things for other people, whether that's, I guess there's some interaction, some kind of social, that's just kind of the social, checkbox, so to speak. So you need like your body and your mind. I think you can't just focus, you can't just like ignore your body completely, or just ignore your mind completely and just be like a monkey. There's people that certainly fall on different amounts of emphasis on each, and I think they kind of suffer as a result. People that are too body focused or too mind focused, I don't know, their body, it's not the balanced state it's meant to be in. Or if they're too body and they're mind focused, they're not enough like men or fellow man focused. I mean, they don't have as much focus on other people, so they're kind of missing the social aspect of it. And I think the fourth one, which was the hardest, and kind of the vaguest one for me to even say, is pursuit of nothing. You almost need like some amount of aimlessness, or some amount of like a lack of pursuit that I think allows for other pursuits to digest, or there's some kind of power in like nothing. And I don't mean nothing. Again, nothing there is kind of hard to pin down too, but I mean nothing as like a philosophical concept, not like the I don't know, even like the pursuit of nothing. So I think this would be the hardest one to nail down, because again, the other three are very simple, at least in theory. So it's like have friends, take care of your body, and take care of your mind. But then like you almost need to certain amount of like ignorance of all of those. You need to kind of, not to say you don't take care of it or do something, you do stupid stuff or you like go lock yourself in a room, but there's almost like some amount of like disassociation you must have, like a healthy amount of disassociation. Because I think being overly in your mind and your body or overly in other people's, in the social, there's like a lot of it that throws everything out of balance, and you kind of need some amount of being disconnected from all of it. So some amount of like, not even sedation, because I think that's kind of the wrong word too, but some amount of nothing. Which again, I think is a very vague thing to claim, and I don't know how else I would, I guess, flush that idea out. But I do think it's hard sometimes because it's like, there's this unspoken misery that that I suffer from, and I'm just speaking hypothetical person here, not necessarily me. But I take care of my body and my mind and a fellow man. But there's almost like a certain amount of like the inability to like be aimless for a time, or to have kind of no pursuits or have no, to kind of remove ambition, because I think that is something that always kind of, that can, I guess, trigger a lot of mental ennui, I suppose, in some way, or just, I don't know, difficulty. So if you're always kind of pursuing something, you never like kind of give yourself a break. So this has got kind of the equivalent of maybe like giving yourself some kind of break in some sense, which is hard to do. A lot of times something falls under like well, this is useful because of this, or like we always want to do something for a reason, but you almost, my point with this is you kind of have to do some stuff for no reason. And that is part of like I guess the good or the wise, the well-lived life is for your body and your mind and fellow man, and then stuff a certain amount for no reason. There's no purpose. It is truly aimless. Because it's difficult. I think I've struggled with that, and this is why I've kind of had to generate that one, because the simple part of me was like, well, it's just like your body and your mind and have friends and keep everything together. But I still think there is kind of a missing component, and I think part of that is to be able to do things aimlessly and to, again, don't have any purpose with this. Even like a tangential purpose. I was like, well, I don't really, it's not important, but I just, just, it'd be nice if like this. It's like, no, I think truly having no rationale for something is another component that misses. And maybe there's more than just these four. I think that's just what came to me, and I thought was broadly categorizable. But I'm certain other philosophers have a lot of, I guess, have formed a lot of other opinions about, I guess, certain of man's actions or man's supposed actions. But I think a lot of what people do now has nothing to do with any of it. They don't take care of their body or mind or fellow man, really. It's like they take care of, it's even abstracted, like they take care of their money, which isn't even them. And I don't know, it's unfortunate to me as that money's become the modern day religion, as I say it. But anyway, I'll talk about something else, because I don't want to get too deep on that. This is another wholly unrelated, but you kind of hear this a lot, and I don't know if it's just I hear this a lot, or it's what I hear when I am listening to people. But oftentimes people are motivated, because I'm curious about what motivates a lot of people to do what the hell they do, and I realize that money is kind of a shallow or stupid motivator for me. So what else motivates people? I know there's like, well, my dad died or whatever. Or there's there's always like some heartthrob story that always motivates people for stuff, and I get that. That's fine too. I don't have any quarrels with what motivates people. I'm just curious more so. But the one I find was always funny is like, well, I want to tell my story. Like I have a story that is my story, and I want to tell the story. And granted, there's a lot of people that have very, very interesting stories, and I would, you love to hear their stories. But oftentimes I don't think they are like chosen, not volunteered, meaning that like, you're a Midwest mom and you were an accountant for 20 years and like your son died of cancer. You like some grand story. Like, I don't, again, as sympathetic as I am to whatever situation you have, odds are you probably don't have that great of a fuck. I don't give a fuck about your story. I don't think anyone cares about your story. Or like whatever first world problems you have. I think there's very few people that are worthy where like, and even them are ones that are begged of others to tell their story. Tell me your story, please. But people kind of unprompted going, well, I want to share my story because I think it's important, about, whatever thing that they're passionate about. And then they kind of make it their point to parade around and make sure everyone knows their story. But like, their story's fucking stupid. I don't mean to trivialize people's experiences, because everyone has their own story and it's important to them. I understand that. But part of what I think is, I guess, funny just about the grandiosity of it is making it like your life's purpose to share your story. Again, as if you're presuming that it's so much more valuable than other people's stories. It's not even that like you don't think it's more valuable than others, but you're willing to think it's valuable enough to, or at least more valuable than others, such that, you're going to, like, for a limited time on the earth that other people have, they should listen to your story, versus as opposed to even like listening to nothing. I think sometimes even that is better than having, not that I have heard life stories that I would rather not hear, but I have. Life stories I don't know that are particularly like fascinating or relevant beyond just like, I don't know. Oh, he invested in the wrong 401k health plan and now he's dead. And it's like, I don't, that is a life story that I don't know that needed to be shared so vehemently, but it's just funny that it seems to motivate people. This like desire to tell their story. But with that, I think comes like the assumption that their story is worth anything. Because there are people I do think have like genuine stories, and generally you would ask them, please, I would like to hear your story because you're an interesting person. You've arrived at interesting conclusions. Versus like people just kind of going out on the limb and saying, well, people need to hear my story because it's like important. It's like, I don't think so. I don't know if it's you that should make that call, right? Or that even that you should, but even that if you want to tell your story, you can, but you shouldn't force it upon other people. Like, sure, maybe at some point when I'm going to die, I say, I want to tell my story. I would do it in a format or in a way that wasn't, imposing my story on other people, presuming that it's more important than what they're looking at. Now, granted, I think if people, instead of watching, Law and Order PD, they just watched biographies of people, they'd probably be better off. But I also would argue that it's a tendency to people that have, again, I'll say almost even trivial stories that they want to share, to be the ones that want to share their stories. The people that are more hesitant to even bother saying anything are ones that don't, they're the ones that you actually won't want to hear. It's not people that are begging for a Netflix deal about their story that have the most interesting stories, or even stories not even interesting, just like useful or wise or like important. A lot of times it's just like distracting. It's like, here's a story about the CIA and how they killed. It's like, why is this are you a threat? I mean, why is this important and this needs to be shared with everybody all the time? Like, why are you so invested in this? It's surprising to me. And I would imagine there's a negative correlation between the subjective importance of your story versus the actual relevance to anyone else's life. Because I've nothing to do with the CIA. I don't give a fuck about the CIA. Why would I care about this story that is so, it's interesting, but I don't know. Maybe it's just all a circus now, and people that's what everything should be. It should all just be some kind of entertainment. And I don't know, but I don't know that that's the virtuous way to go about living one's life. Anyway, I just wanted to rant on people telling stories. This is kind of a funny aside. So I do check my spam folders a lot, only because I pretty strict. I like having zero inbox, like to the extreme. So I do all the unsubscribe stuff, and I like block stuff, and there's certain domains I know spam is coming from, so I block them. But there's this one spammer that like I guess I don't know if it's trying to get executables on my machine or something like that, but they send me just like images and stuff that my browser blocks and I can't even open. But in all of the quotes they have in all of the emails they have these money like philosophical quotes from like great writers and poets in the past, and it's actually almost interesting now that I realize that this is like a scammer or a spam person. It's not even a scammer, probably just like someone that just sends out spam to try and get people to, I don't know what they're farming, just like, I don't know, computers or whatever, farming like IP addresses of people's computers or something like that. But it's funny that this like literally spam account is giving me like a lot of like pretty profound quotes about things that I actually like. And I think it's interesting, but I guess shout out to the whatever spam bot is sending out that crap. I don't know. The URL is like 100 characters long, so I didn't feel like writing it down, but it's just funny that these spam emails have like great quotes, like in the footer of the email. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, let's see. I guess here's something else that I think is funny. Somebody brought up to me the other day. So in New York City, one of the great American cities, there's this art like exhibit thing. I don't even call it an art exhibit, but it was supposed to be an art exhibit, or it's supposed to be like something else. But it's called the Vessel, and it's just this big. So it's basically this big walkway that's made out of. I mean, it almost looks like I don't know, like a giant slinky or something like that. It's got like kind of a weird parabolic shape of some sort, like a bowl almost at the bottom. But then like has like weird interlacing parts around it. And it's supposed to be a walking path. People are supposed to be able to walk on it and get exercise and whatnot. And they had to close it down because people were jumping off to kill themselves. And while that's not funny itself, I think the entire thing is very, I don't know, it's very symbolic. I think of our entire generation like that. To me, that is like a true. It's artistic, and not in the sense that even it has like architectural appeal, because the architecture is impressive. It does look interesting, but I think it's like $20 million, something ridiculous that was spent on this, and for what's ultimately like a pretty, would otherwise be a pretty short walking track that I guess is like very circular and repetitive. So it probably wouldn't be much fun to walk around. But I think it's funny that the artistic value of it is not even in the fact that that it's like what it was supposed to be. The artistic value in my eyes now is the fact that it is a representative of just people killing themselves. And I think that is again way more symbolic than anything you could have done with this cylindrical shape or whatever the history is of this location or the materials it was made out of. I think all of that pales in comparison to the fact that, like, when someone asks, oh, why can't we walk on it? It's, oh, well, they had to shut it down because people were jumping off to kill themselves. So that to me, I think is funny, just to think that the art has completely backfired. Whereas it may have begun as something that was artistic for its own purpose or had its own philosophy on why it was artistic. It is now artistic, to me at least, because it represents a generation that is miserable, or it was shut down because people were killing them. So it was just funny to me, it was all the more artistic because of that. So I don't know, I thought it was just a funny aside that it is almost artistic and profound for the wrong reasons. It's not profound because it's like a good piece of art. It's profound because of what what else happened. So I don't know. I probably have more to say on that later, but I'll probably stop there. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I guess here's the other thing. I guess it's also kind of symbolic of the whole reason I do these entire things. I think my least favorite people, and I don't know, this is not going to come off, I hope this doesn't come off as any kind of, I don't know, the type of person that bothers me the most are the ones that, and it's not like I'm saying I have some kind of dog sense where I can tell people that are full of shit, but like, people that are like full of shit, and you, on some level, people have different, I guess, varying amounts of bloodhound scent where they can say, okay, this guy's full of shit or not. But some people, I think, have for whatever reason, have spun up such, I even say just grandiose lies about themselves or who they are, what they like or what they do, that they've forgotten all amount of who they might have been at all. And not saying they're nobody, but they're just whoever they have to pretend to be all the time is obviously exhausting them. And I think these are people that are very, very strung out, that seem disheveled and just lost most of the time. And like, maybe you're like quirky, but in a way that doesn't seem natural. Like there's like a natural quirk where people are acting normal and they're just like, okay, this guy's a weirdo. There's people that like, maybe not that they want to be weird, but they're like they're searching for like who they are. But then at the time they like made up somebody they thought they were, or that they want to be, perhaps. Maybe it's someone that they idolize. And so they try to develop this like persona and then maybe like build themselves into that. But part of what this has manifested itself as is just people that have spun up such big and delusional lies about who they are and what they value and what they care about, that there's almost no going back because they would look stupid or like backtracking and go, maybe I don't give a fuck about any of this. And so they'd rather just kind of live in the lie and be miserable. So not to say that there's any particular group or anybody in particular, certainly not anything that would, anyone would agree with me on in terms of like a political stance, but people that have just built themselves such a lie of a life that they don't have, there's no amount of authenticity left. Because I think there's a certain peace that you arrive at, get on varying levels that you arrive at once you've truly come to peace with some of who you are, because you never really figure out everything all the time. Like you don't have all the answers always. You just kind of, you reach a point enough where you're, again, kind of solidified enough to be, okay, this is kind of the things I do and won't do and value and don't value. And these change, again, vaguely as things go on and life goes on. But generally, people, if you lie in the beginning and you just commit to the lie and you continually double down and triple down on this lie about who you are and what you care about, then it's like, and it's no wonder that you see people that seem to have lost their mind in some ways, and not in the same way that I would lose my mind. I think at least I would hope so, because part of what I think the whole effort is behind me doing these is to try and get in touch or question or have some kind of authenticity basis, at least speaking as honestly and truthfully as I can, knowing that I'll be hypocritical, I'll contradict myself, I'll backpedal. I don't have commitment to any of these ideas. I'm not writing them in stone. I guess I'm saying them in stone, but ultimately I don't care that this is a non-stone like medium for me. I don't know that people really memorialize videos in the same sense they would memorialize, like, I don't know, anything really anymore. Not that anyone really cares who I am or who I truly am or who I lie to myself to be, but it's funny that there seems to be people that care about the I don't know, the idea that somebody might care about who they truly are, but then they've lacked the I guess intrinsic ability to kind of really question who they are and answer themselves honestly. So they've lost the root authenticity parts. They don't really know who they are, so they just keep making stuff up, which I think are the most frustrating people to be around, because you don't really know what they represent. I guess beyond just, or you can tell even that whatever they're saying they represent is not, it's something that seems like a veneer of some kind. And maybe this is just an abstraction on people trying to have, like, they're worried about social consequences of certain things. So I guess if you're someone that always freaked out about being canceled or saying the wrong things, it's difficult to then, maybe if you truly feel something but don't want to say it because for fear of, retribution of some kind, you can then develop these pathologies that eventually manifest themselves in, like, living a lie per se. So, like, I don't know, I could see even people, not that I think this is prevalent per se, but I could see people like almost just like gaslighting themselves into, I don't know, being a homosexual of some kind, even though they're not, solely because they've, like, built this, like, persona and brand about who they are and what they care about, that it's like, it'd be weirder to, like, be more honest with themselves and backpedal than it would be to just, like, commit to the bit. And now the bit is just their life, which, I guess it's unfortunate for them, but I don't know. It's the people that are the ones that frustrate me the most. So I don't know. There's a certain desire for authenticity I think people should have. They should at least, maybe don't necessarily know that, they should at least have an interest in being as authentic as possible, whether or not they are, or or at least know what trying to be authentic even looks like, or what that feels like, or what that sounds like to themselves. But I think a huge part of that, which we might be missing, is the time spent just alone, like in solitary, with nothing going on, nothing filling your ears or your eyes, like taking even a day or even like a whole week with nothing, no clocks, with you, like just with your brain and your, body and whatever. I think, but there's very little of that I think happens over, especially the early development periods of people's life now. So it's no wonder that I guess people try to adopt things that they see, and they don't get enough time. They don't really get enough time with themselves to be themselves. So they don't even know the fuck they are because they spend so much time consuming other people's stuff and living other people's lives and consuming other people's opinions and clothes and food. Everything else is other people. It's all external to them. They don't spend any time with themselves. So then it's like they don't have a fucking clue who they are. They've made up who they are. It's an assortment of other people. But I think there's a certain piece that you get if you spend enough time with yourself and you kind of know how you work. You're not as surprised when you do certain things, and you can. And that's the other thing I think with even like certain addictions or mental illnesses that can come about. And I wouldn't just be quick to pin everything on people not spending enough time alone, but I imagine people spending time alone at early ages and understanding that they spend the most time with themselves, no matter what. Like no matter what you do and how, like you're going to spend most of your time alone. Like even if you're at a party with somebody, or even at a party, like there's a certain amount of time where you're in your own head, or you're even just intermittently between a conversation, or even within a conversation, you're within your own head thinking about who's going to reply, or what are you going to say, or what are they saying, or listening in some way that's not. I don't think it's possible. And you can try. I guess good luck. People are trying to just jam enough stuff in your head where you never have to be with yourself, but you have to be with yourself at some point and make peace with yourself to figure out who the fuck you are and what you stand for, or don't stand for, or even just because you don't figure that out per se, but you at least reach a point where it's not like in complete turmoil. And I would argue that I think there is a lot more just like general turmoil within themselves than there may have been historically, when more people had time, I guess, in solitude and time to think and, I don't know, ruminate on things. It's in shorter supply now than it has in previous generations. But anyway, I'll wrap it up there just because it's, I don't know, it's a good place to stop. But I'm a huge proponent of observing silence and being with yourself, being with nothing. Just embrace. Don't give yourself anything to do. Just have some kind of aimless something. Be aimless for a little bit. Do nothing. Accomplish nothing. Do nothing. See nothing. Consume nothing. Be nothing. Don't not breathe. I guess what you have to breathe, but don't think about that as an object of something. Just do literally nothing. But anyway, peace out.